Looks like we are live. Hey, welcome everybody to our Sunday night sessions. So great to be back here again on a wonderful Sunday night. I'm Tracy Jameson along with Val Smith. We have a special guest on tonight, Allan Knight. Allan and I go back a few years. We're in the same locale in the Vancouver area. And Allan is a great coach and speaker and communicator, has a great history in not only in this industry, but through the corporate structure as well. So we're going to get a chance to really get in here and just throw some ideas back and forth. And as usual, it's not scripted by any means. We never know what direction it's going to go. And we're just here to have a lot of fun and hang out. And so, Allan, I'm not going to throw you to the wolves right out of the gates. We'll let you kind of
get into the tigers.
A little bit.
Yeah.
We'll throw you to the tigers, but we'll let you get into the groove here a little bit. And I mean, Val and I we're good at throwing things back and forth to each other. We've been doing this for a while. So, Val, I'm going to send it over to you and just tell us what's going on and what's on your mind and whatever. Go for it.
Well, I'm really excited about Allan being here tonight, probably more so for his history. He's got an incredible history. I mean, the stepping stones that he's taken in his life, and I just had the privilege of meeting him a few weeks ago and having that fabulous conversation. The stepping stones that he's gone through and the uniqueness of his experiences. I mean, he's done something most other speakers would have never well, maybe they had the opportunity to do it, but they never took the stepping stones he did. And I'm really excited about Allan. I'll tell you why, because I've been to a lot of motivational speakers and self-help gurus and stuff like that. But you know what? They never seem to help, to be honest with you. But the thing that I really feel about Allan, like this is my gut feeling, he's esoteric. He's been exposed to some really deep stuff, and that's what we like is the deep stuff. And you just can't get that. You just don't get that as much on the internet. You definitely don't get it in a live hangout, right? Like most people come here with the power of positive thinking and setting goals and all the, you know, the nice la-di-da Mickey Mouse stuff. But this guy's pretty deep, and he's had some great teachers and mentors along the way. He's been exposed to some great philosophies, probably some good, some bad, some ugly. I'm sure everything he's learned he hasn't totally agreed with in spirit and heart. As you know, I've been through down that road too. Had some great teachers and mentors, and totally disagreed with the philosophies later. Sometimes you get trapped into the philosophy at first, but then as you start becoming a little bit wiser, you start questioning things. And I think Allan's questioned a lot of the great things he's been exposed to. So I'm really pumped and excited. So Allan, if you don't mind tonight, I can introduce you, Tracy's friend, but I can do it by saying, hey man, why don't you tell us a little bit about that unique journey you took, man? I mean, you just didn't come out of high school, college, university, go into the corporate world, and then all of a sudden read a self-help book and say, hey, I want to be a speaker. You actually had a really unique experience walking through the jungle, man. I feel like going through your story is like going through the Jungle Book. I mean, there's so many detours, there's so many unique creatures and philosophical approaches along the way. I'm really excited to hear it.
Well, thank you so much, Val and Tracy. You know, one of the things Tracy didn't mention to you is that Tracy was one of my first teachers, and then I went into a deep state of depression for 10 years. And that's where
Way to go, Trace. Way to go.
Well, you wanted something different than raw motivation, right? So I thought I would start like that.
I love it.
No, but you know what's funny? You talk about not being scripted. This hangout not being scripted, and I think that we could talk about a lot of things, and I'll certainly get into my background a little bit as well. But when I look around me now, we talked about this before, there's so much fear, so much insecurity, so much political correctness, because people are so preoccupied with what other people think. And one of my greatest mentors, I guess neither of you would ever guess who my greatest mentor of all time was, and the young people listening wouldn't remember the name, but it was the old crooner Dean Martin.
Oh, yeah.
And Dean Martin was one of my favorite personalities, and part of it is because he had the #1 TV show for 9 years, and he insisted that he shows up a couple of hours before the show. He made mistakes, he didn't rehearse, and people loved him because of the joy that he used out from his personality, his charm, his joy, his authenticity. And we have too much of the political correctness now that keeps people, you know, unempowered. So I thought I would start off just by mentioning that. But just to answer your question, Val, I'm originally from Montreal. I have when I was 13 years old, my mother was diagnosed with cancer and was told she had 6 months to live, and she lived for 20 years. And my mother was the first role model for me of the power of the human spirit. Then my father died when I was 19. I was in the middle of university at the time. Was a bit confused, so thought I would travel as well. I traveled for 1 year, and I wasn't. I almost died on the desert. I had a life-changing experience when I was left on the desert to die, really, and it was a miracle that I survived that. And when I came home to Montreal, I went from being an atheist to exploring my spirituality. And at the time, I met some people that were living at what was called the Zen Meditation Center in Montreal. And I met them, and their eyes were so clear. I felt at home. I moved in within 1 week, and I lived there for 9 years. And it became like a monastery, really. And although it was a time that I didn't have a lot of fun being in a city like Montreal, a lot of people thought I was an idiot for becoming a monk. But it saved my life, because what happened is I learned a lot about meditation. I learned a lot about getting to your core. And then after 9 years, of course, I had enough of it. I missed women too much, so I left the monastery, got back into the world, got some telemarketing jobs at call centers, which, funnily enough, I have a master's degree in education. I probably learned more about communication and listening and people on the call center on the phone all day than I did in formal education. But that's another story. And then I went back to get my master's degree in education and counseling psychology from McGill. And my thesis was the quality of relationships with others begins with the quality of relationship you have with yourself. I knew that that was going to be my core philosophy, but then I had to figure out, okay, what does that really mean, and how do you transform yourself? So I started to do training and coaching and motivation and communication and telephone skills and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I knew that the future of the world was going to be entrepreneurship. I knew that home-based business was going to be the future, because at that time I was introduced to a company you'll probably remember, both of you do, NSA, which was the first company I connected with. And I realized then that people were very excited about the opportunity of reaching unlimited income, working with people, you know, that you choose to work with, not having to work 9 to 5, having that freedom. Yet most people were not succeeding. And I began to realize that unless people develop the focus, the confidence, the simple communication skills that they're going to need, they're going to be brought down by things like procrastination and fear and insecurity. So I set out to create a training system over the years that became the 9-step formula. And I've been training ever since, coaching ever since. Just my book just came out called A Night Without Armor, and now I'm going to take my training into webinar format. But in a nutshell, what I learned was that most people that came into my office for coaching, when I did my evaluation, even after they spent 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, $50,000 on self-development, when I did my assessment, many of them still had a hyperactive mind. Many of them were afraid of rejection. Many of them were not bold and assertive like you and Jamie and Tracy are. And I realized that unless training and education gets out of the mind, gets out of knowledge and into action and into the gymnasium, it was never going to work long term. So that's why I went about creating an inner fitness and verbal fitness program. And being a monk, of course, helped me, because learning how to get in what I call the Zen zone, and I'm grateful in the last 2 years that most of the time I live in that zone. Then from that base, we don't live in the Himalayan mountains, we live in North America, so we need to learn how to communicate, we need to learn how to build our career, we need to learn how to deal with life in general. So if you could take the Zen zone and then add in our career, relationships, health, and everything else, then you've got the whole package. So in a nutshell, that's a bit of my past. I hope I covered that in a few minutes, but that's about it for my introduction.
Yeah, well, you did a fantastic job. You said something that is music to my ears. I got to love you for it. I'll tell you I love you for it. and don't take that the wrong way, but I'll tell you why I love you for it.
Let's not be too quick with that, okay? Let's not be too quick.
Yeah, that's okay.
A lot of love going on here.
I know you're into the other stuff, but I'll tell you what I love first. I'll tell you what I love first, honestly. You brought up telemarketing rooms, working in call centers. And that industry has a bad name, and I'll tell you something. Tell anyone to go to high school, college, university, do that for, what, X amount of years, 10 years, spend 15 years, 20 years getting this degree, that degree, this degree, that degree. You will never get a degree like you get in a call center. They are the best environments. I've worked in call centers. I've trained call centers. I've taken away scripts from call centers. The best education in the world is in a call center, and I tell people that I've got a degree in psychiatry. I've got a degree in therapeutic counseling. I've got a degree in psychology, and it has nothing to do with the university degree. It has everything to do with being in the trenches, dealing with the human psyche. And anyway, you got me excited when you brought up that. You got me excited, period. But that call center stuff, man, that puts me in a frenzy.
This excitement's going way too far for me. I'll tell you that.
Well, sorry about that, man. Maybe we'll take you off the air or something like that. But it's getting hot in here. Go ahead.
You're gonna love my story. We must be soul brothers here because you're gonna love this story. I spent years working in call centers, and one of my business partners who passed away 8 years ago owned a call center for many years. So I was in and around call centers, and I know them well. Nice. And many times they would ask me to give a talk in front of the group. And these were young people, and they thought they were at the lowest bottom of the totem pole of any profession. And I said to them, guys, I've got a bachelor in psychology, a master's in education. I've got all this formal education. Nowhere have I learned more about communication, people, listening, confidence, boldness than I have on the phone. And I tell one quick story. I'm going to tell you the first time I ever went into the call center, the owner came in and said, I wish you the best of luck today. You're going to talk to about 50 or 100 people. I talked to about 50 to 100 people. At the end of the day, he comes to me and he says, how did you like it? And I said, it was fantastic. And he said, well, what did you like about it? I said, I talked to so many interesting people. It was fun. It was great. He said, how many sales did you make? I said, none. He said, I'm glad you had a good time.
I thought he was going to say, I'm glad you had a good time. You're fired.
Well, almost. But he taught me the most important lesson, that because of my fear of rejection, because of my insecurity, which you know well, at call center, getting on the phone, we're all afraid of that rejection, right? That I was more interested in the people liking me than I was confident about presenting the great opportunity that I had for them. So I started to practice and do the inner work until I became fearless on the phone, and I was one of the best ones on the phone.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, and you know what? You said something really cool too, Allan, is and it's so true, because people will spend, like you said, $50,000, whatever, endless amounts of time. They'll go from seminar to webinar to gurus, things, but they never actually get it out, like you say, into the gymnasium. They never get a chance to really practice it. And I think that people, they waste a lot of time in perfecting that. They get sort of addicted to that whole arena of that, gathering that information and gathering that information. But the information isn't good unless it's put into practice. So there's a point in there where people have to realize that they can learn, but they have to actually, take part of it and exercise it, take part of it and exercise it, and take part of it and exercise it. Otherwise, they get perpetually in that learning mode, and they never, and then, 5 years down the road, they say, well, I've still not made any money. I've been to all of these seminars, webinars, whatever the case may be, but yet they've never, ever gotten stepped in. They get all the inner, the fear's going inner, but they can't bring it out and be in the population and use it. So it's really important people do that.
Tracy. What's wrong with my mind here? Tracy, you're so bang on, and almost everywhere I go, I always talk about the following fact. If I'm in a group, I'll say, how many of you believe that knowledge is power? Of course, everybody puts their hand up out of habit, right? And I said, well, I'll tell you my thoughts on knowledge is power. Knowledge is power in certain situations. If I want to become a doctor, I better study for 7 or 8 years to become a doctor and learn a lot of knowledge. If I want to become a social scientist, I better study. But when it comes to interpersonal skills, selling, it's the opposite. Simplicity is power. The heart is power. Presence of mind is power. Patience is power. Listening is power. Asserting yourself is power. A little knowledge helps, of course, but the main impact is on a heart level and a connecting level, which is much more simplicity. Unless you take that knowledge into emotional commitment, unless you take that emotional commitment into action, unless you take all that into effective communication, that is why I teach people the 4 cylinders and how to practice that. And the other thing, another problem, is that we live in a world where we identify education with universities and formal education, which is all about the rational mind. So people get into analysis paralysis and overwhelmed with thinking, and now with internet and tweeting and texting, people are living in the sound bites of their mind and don't go through the process of relationship building. And Val was talking at the beginning about we got to get back to connecting on the phone, networking, presenting, listening, connecting on a belly-to-belly situation, and that's my mission in life. And so what you said is perfect. We're on the same wavelength too.
Yeah, I really dig it, because there's so many people that are out there chasing the self-help movement, you know, which was started by, well, it goes way back, but it was kind of commercialized in the 1940s with Conan Nightingale and all that. And it was created, obviously, for everything in life is created for money. It's a money movement without any question, without any doubt, with a twist to it. But you know what? That's the big thing for a lot of people. It's an intellectual exercise. And when I went to school, I went to school in Toronto, and just very quickly to add to what you're saying, I went to college to be a child care worker. And to be truthfully honest with you, I wasn't very good at the academic side of it in class, where some people would excel and I didn't, because I was bored. I was bored sitting in class. But when we got to go out in the group homes, my marks were much higher than probably 96% of the class. I was great in the street smarts of it, but I had no time for the class. I wanted to go sit in the bar after school and have a few beers and loosen up and stuff. I look forward to the buzzer going off. That's where I was at. But some of us just have the DNA to rock and roll. So assimilation, manifestation, internalization, and application is something. So it's not like an intellectual exercise. So all these people go to these seminars, and they're junkies, and they go to the seminars, and they go to that seminar, they go to this seminar, and they go to that seminar, and you say, how did it feel? And they said, oh man, it was great. I just came back from that seminar. It's a Monday, right? They were just there Saturday and Sunday, and they're wired for sound. You talk to them 6 months later, and you say, well, how much money did you make so far? Did it prosper? Did you prosper? They say, no, I'm still paying that $10,000 debt for that seminar I was at 6 months ago. Yeah. So you're right. There is a big difference between knowledge being power, and knowledge being active and taking a form of energy and application.
Yeah, and Val, I agree with that. I'll go one step further, is that I think it's highly irresponsible on the part of a lot of rah-rah motivational trainers. They know that the audiences are vulnerable. So they already know that they're going to play on the hype, and then they're going to upsell them to this and upsell them to that and upsell them to this. That is why I felt that I wanted to create a self-coaching system, so that when they're finished with me, they could take that system, and when they get off track, they know exactly what to do. They could become their own coach. Because unless people become their own coach, they're going to just be going on for the quick fix. That's going to cost them a lot more money and not get the results that they're looking for.
You know what, Allan, you're so right.
Sorry, Tracy, go ahead.
Sorry, Val. The people are they're task takers, and that's where people, like in our industry here, you have to be able to give somebody, tell them what to do, tell them go here, do this, and that's especially for people that are in the workforce. I mean, I was in it for 31 years, but I didn't fit in very well because I didn't follow those tasks, I don't think. But and it's a big transition, and it was a big transition for me because I was self-motivated. I could apply myself, but it was still a transition. So for people to kind of set into the network marketing industry from being in the 9-to-5 job, it's definitely it's a trigger situation where they have to realize that they have to give themselves those tasks and those jobs and be able to manage doing all that stuff. And I think that people, you said something very important, Allan, about the simplicity. You used that word simplicity. And I think people, and I've always said this about relationships, I mean, and life. I said, relationships are simple, life is simple, people make it complicated. And I think that a lot of it, and Val and you and I think we've had this conversation many times. I mean, just pick up the phone and talk to somebody. It's really that simple. When people get all locked up in being perfect and saying the perfect thing, and heaven knows we don't. We just rock and roll and have a really good time and get to know people and build that relationship. So I think that that's where all that knowledge comes, and people are holding all this knowledge and they think that, okay, now I have to use all of this. No, it's building out your social skills and using a lot of that stuff to help you, just grow. And that's all you're supposed to get from that, is to do that and then build out who you are personally, right?
But I see, go ahead, Val.
I was just going to say, just Tracy, you're right on with all this. And going back to what Allan was saying about telemarketing, Allan, you can relate to this. One of the things I discovered in telemarketing rooms and actually working the automatic dialer and sitting there is that when you get rid of the script, when you get rid of the protocol and the format, and you just allow yourself to be, the telemarketers know the product better than the floor managers or even the company. I mean, they don't need scripts. And when you take the script away, instead of just saying, hi, good afternoon, my name's Val Smith. I'm calling on behalf of the Denver Post. How are you today? Like reading from a teleprompter, and I got so much information now. And, people are kind of putting Donald Trump down today on the internet because they said he doesn't read from a teleprompter. He's charismatic, he's charming, he's evangelical. He doesn't need a teleprompter. Why? Because he's the best at what he does. I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm just saying I would rather see somebody perform without a script. And one of the things that fascinates me, and I understand why, because I used to be weak and vulnerable too, is that there's such a codependency on people coming into a business opportunity, free enterprise, and saying, Allan, do you have any scripts? Like, are you kidding me? Like, honestly, when you really think about the common sense and logic, I'm glad I don't have to talk to Tracy through a script. Allan, I'm glad I don't have to talk to you through a script. We don't even know each other. You're not anxious talking to me, and we're strangers, kinda. And I'm not anxious talking to you. We're just brothers and sisters here on Earth. We're doing our thing. We're communicating. We're talking. It doesn't have to be that difficult. We shouldn't have to have a BS conversation based on somebody else's written propaganda for our conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but one of the things, Val, that I came to, because I've been in and around of network marketing and home-based business for so long, I don't know how long I think you guys have also. But one of the things that I've let go that I think I was too preoccupied with was my own expectations of others. And I realized that if there's an opportunity, like even if it's mentoring millionaires, like I'm sharing now as best with the time that I have with a few people because I want them to know about mentoring millionaires. Now, if I start, if they want me to help them with training and coaching, which I'm happy to do, yeah. One of the things that I make clear is that there's a difference between someone coming on board because they desperately want to make money but are not committed to growing, not committed to refining their skills and learning, versus people that are hungry for the Olympics. And what I realized is it's not about trying to change people who don't want to change. At this point in my life, I'm starting to weed people out. In other words, when people even come to see me, I'll say, are you really ready for something like this? Let's do a little evaluation and an assessment. And if I see that they're not really ready, I wouldn't want them to waste their time or their money. And I think the same thing in network marketing. Only a few percent make most of the money. And the reason is a lot of people at the bottom may not want to grow, but there are a lot of people in the middle who would want to grow if they knew how. and not everyone's like you, Tracy, or myself. And so I think we need to identify the ones that are serious and then have some kind of accountability system, which I know I use in my own practice. It's simple. Motivation, MAC, motivation for mindset, mastery, and inner power. A for action and accountability. And C for communication, a simple communication when you get on the phone or you network or you do your 30-second elevator speech. So if I meet someone who's motivated, and what I've learned is if you train people in the simplicity of MAC and practice it with them and get them in the zone and they start to get a feel of it, they could fall back on the simple exercises in the gymnasium. A lot of them are going to take it from there. So I'm interested in working with the ones that are excited about growing, and I don't think everyone is.
I think that's a really good point. One of the things, when I was doing Mentors in Motion from 2001, 2006, I always used to say, because people would talk about multi-level marketing, network marketing, kind of from a negative point of view. That's because they're ignorant, didn't understand it, and didn't realize that it's probably the best model in the world if used correctly, I believe. I think history has proven that over time, going back to biblical times as well, ancient times, doesn't matter what time. But you know what? One of the things I always said back in the day, 2001 to 2006, when I was running that program, is I said the government, you know, people talk about FTC, people talk about government regulatory bodies. I always felt that, you know, recruiting dysfunction can only equal dysfunction. That's one of the things I always taught. And, you know, it's people treat the home-based business industry like they're entitled to something, which is absolutely moronic, pathetic, and it's a disease. That's stinking thinking at its finest. I always said, and I said this to company owners, because anyone can start a company. There's no rules and regulations. Technically, there are possibly, but you know what? Anyone can be an entrepreneur, right? Anyone can fly under the radar. Anyone can do anything. But my whole point being is, in this industry, the home-based business industry, you know, so people don't bitch, whine, and complain about their pathetic process of going through this, myself included one time. I used to feel sorry for myself and be the victim and got cheated, got scammed, and used to blame it on all the externals. I wasn't willing to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I take full responsibility for my stupidity. I'd always have to call stupidity a scam instead. So the whole point being, Allan, is I always said there should be a governmental regulatory body in place that would force people to go through some sort of mandated course before they could get involved in a distributorship of a business. Because 97% of the people are not qualified to be here in this industry. I hate to say that, but I'm not gonna bullshit anyone on the line, right?
I would go a step further and say the same thing for parenting.
But you know what's interesting too is that our school system has been set up to program people for the 9 to 5. There's nothing within the school system to teach people about entrepreneurialism. So, you know, so people go down the tracks and they keep going down those tracks. How do they get off the tracks and get in? And you know, it's a self-motivated and self-taught direction unless you have a mentor, and I recommend people need to have mentors. I've had some great mentors. Val's a great mentor. Allan, you're a great mentor, and of course I've had the chance to do the same in return. And I think that's what this industry is all about. It's about, and Val, I know this 100% of you, it's about giving back to the industry. You've been very successful. And so, you know, it's really, but the school system fails, I think, people in all of, I mean, they don't even teach you how to balance a checkbook, for Pete's sakes. Not that people use them anymore. But you know what I'm saying? It needs to support the entrepreneurial spirit and the individual, I can't even say the word, of people, and give them an opportunity to do that, right?
Well, about the educational system, it's interesting. About 2 weeks ago, I was approached by 2 young Asian guys in Vancouver, about 25 years old, and they started kind of an entrepreneurial youth group that they want me to do some coaching there. And they said they were so fed up with the school system because it doesn't teach the skills that they need later on in life. And when you go back to what led me to get into the coaching and training and educational system, is because I was so upset about that. I got my master's, I got my bachelor's, but I was screwed up. I didn't have the skills that I needed for later on in life. No, not even dating skills, for God's sake. You don't even learn how to date in school. So I agree with you. Now, connected to what you said, Val, here's I want to acknowledge both you and Tracy, and I'm not just trying to make you feel good, but I think that what you've created with Mentoring Millionaires is very idyllic for what you want to achieve here, because in traditional network marketing, as you know, the danger is that a lot of people who have big downlines could jump from company to company to company, and they get all the benefits, and then you get the people down below who have this hope and this hype, but they're not up to scratch to really make it happen, and in many cases they have to sign up too many people before they even earn about $500 a month. One of the things I love about what you're doing is it puts people on the onus on them. It's affiliate. It's not network marketing, as you know, and I like that about it. And I like the fact that you give a high commission for the individual, so the individual is honored, a smaller amount to the company, not like in network marketing where most of the money goes up to the company and to the leaders. So I think that you have a model that, and I'm sure it's going to evolve as time goes on, you have a model that actually is going to help a lot of the right people come to the table. That's my belief.
Yeah, you said the right model. Yeah, we're using a process called reverse osmosis. More for the people, less for the company. And what we're really looking for right now, the more and more I'm on Facebook and watching the social networks and seeing how people want to defend their little cosmic world of foolishness and manipulation and thievery out there, it's really amazing. So what we're looking for, this is, for me, as I'm sitting here right now in this time and space, this is like a Hollywood movie. This experience right now, this second, this millisecond is like a Hollywood movie. I'll tell you why. I feel like we've got the antidote. We've got the antidote, and everybody's DNA is so screwed up out there because what they don't know is that when they were born and they came out of the womb and entered Schoolhouse Earth, they don't know their doctor quietly slid a vaccine in there that says you're going to have low self-esteem, you're going to fail, you're going to feel like a loser, you're going to be insecure in the game of life, and you cannot be successful. So we've got the antidote that says, people, you are born rich. Now it's time to claim it. So we got to go back and take the decontamination out of the DNA with this antidote we have. We have, Allan. It's right out of a Hollywood script, man. So we're going to be on the run with one of these little cylinders with this glow-in-the-dark antidote. So if you see me running down the street with this cylinder and black coats chasing me, man, because they're trying to take us up because we got the cure.
I get your point.
So yeah, it's
that's
really
like the cure for cancer. They won't want that, will they?
No, they don't want that. But the you know what the sickest thing is? It's like there's people out there that the sickest thing is, Allan. Here's the sick thing. People want the cure for cancer so bad. Obviously, the medical mafia doesn't. For monetary reasons, everything else that goes along with it, and all the chain pullers up top and stuff. But the thing that fascinates me about the home-based business industry is that there is a cure for dysfunction. There is a cure for lack. There is a cure for poverty consciousness. There is a cure for procrastination and lack of taking action, but the people don't want it. It's still a very sadomasochistic industry out there, and people will defend feces before they'll defend anything positive. I mean, they're like flies to crap. You show them a very simple, easy, childlike way to execute a game plan to change their situation, but yet they're really into this self-mutilization. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes being on the internet, it's like talking to people that are addicted to drugs. They don't want to come out of the heroin. They love it. You're sitting there. You want to intervene. You want to help them. You want to take them by the hand and bring them to recovery. And show them how simple, and show them that life was not about poverty. That if there is a God out there, if there is an esoteric God out there, God didn't plan for suffering, pain, poverty, insecurity, lack. I'm sure that if there's a creator out there, it didn't want us to live in a world of poverty and Poverty is a self-created, decontaminated component in the DNA, and people need to remove it.
But here's my take. Here's my take on it, Val. Is I agree with everything you're saying, but if we look at everything globally, we could talk generally about that there's a disease out there. But what I'm choosing to focus on these days is I'm looking for people who are fed up. I only work with people who are fed up. If you're not, one of the things I'll ask, if someone comes to my office and we talk, I say, well, after they do their self-assessment and their x-ray and they see all the things that are holding them back, I'll ask them the following question. Do you see room for improvement? And they would say, absolutely. Second question, how emotionally fed up, how sick and tired are you of the mediocrity? Because if you don't change, you'll be, you'll live a decent life, an okay life, or whatever. But we're talking about living an extraordinary life here. How emotionally fed up are you and willing to commit and do whatever it takes to make it happen? But 80% will say, I'm very fed up. Yep. And then, of course, I listen to their voice because I don't always buy into it. And then my third question is, are you able to do this on your own, or do you feel you need to have a process to go through, exercises to go through, a system to go through where you could then coach yourself for the rest of your life? And then they'll either say, I think if I would have done it on my own, I would have already done it. But what I find is that I weed out the people that are fed up, and then once they get involved, I make sure that I've got an MACA is action and accountability. There's a success partner, a prioritization list, so they get on a roll for 90 days, all out massive action with a success partner and with a system that they don't need me or anybody after. So that what I'm hoping to do, and even with Mentoring Millionaires, whatever group I'm putting together, I want to be able to work with the ones that are fed up, because if enough people get fed up and see results, the masses may start looking more at what's going on there up in Mentoring Millionaires.
Yeah, well, the key is results. People buy results, and results sell. Obviously, it's going to be personalized results, and I think subconsciously people don't understand that yet. They have to get that in their mindset. People don't understand that in the subconscious. In the conscious mind, they do, but you know what? The most dominant thought in the subconscious mind is still they're not focused on the positive results. They're focused on the separation. You know what I'm saying? Everything's a crutch. Like, people will ask, well, how much is it going to cost me? How long will it take to make my money back? How do you know I'm going to make any money? Are there any guarantees? That people have a very difficult time separating themselves from their codependent crutches that keep them in the mediocre comfort zone that they're in today, instead of saying, hey, you know what? This looks like a great opportunity. If I spend X, I see myself making X. You know what I mean? Like, even for what we have going, for $147 one time out of pocket, we've got people making their money back in 20 minutes. We got people making 10 times their money back in 24 hours. We've got one lady, Tracy's not aware of it yet. We have one lady, Angel, that took the format that I showed her, and she executed her game plan with Mentoring Millionaires, and in combination with something else I showed her, $33,100 in 4 months, and it cost her no money out of pocket, because she had the money back before she could ever get a bill or an invoice from X, whatever X was, right? So it's really amazing to see how people aren't looking at the majority of the people aren't looking at how fast can I leverage myself, or they're not looking at the value. They think they're devaluing it, when in essence, I think you brought it up, people don't want to deal with their insecurities. People feel beat up inside. They're suppressed, and really that's what they're demonstrating when they're worried about what's the cost. Are there any guarantees? People aren't willing to bet on themselves, and that's a scary thing, Allan. People are not willing to bet on themselves. They've already beat the hell out of themselves before they even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, but Val, the internet tells them that somebody else is going to do the work for them. The internet tells them that they're going to do a team build, and the internet tells them that they're going to get spillover, and all they have to do is throw their money their way. So the internet, of course, you know everything's correct on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, people have been buying into that falsification for some time, and it's too bad, because that's what gives this industry a bad name, or actually the online industry a bad name, because you know, we've talked about this many times, and it's just not true. And it's just people have, like you said, it becomes that codependency. And if you can strip that codependency away, and it's hard, you know, we've all been through that point in our life, I'm sure, you know, where, you know, it's time to, like you say, look in the mirror and realize that if nothing changes, nothing changes. So, you know, we've laid it all out. We don't, this is the truth. Like I say, we're sometimes not politically correct, but we're going to tell you absolutely the truth. And the truth, like you say, it's in the results. Val, you've had incredible results in your history, and if there's anybody that can speak to that, obviously it's you. And so that's, like I said, that's the platform that we've put together to take people out of that codependency, the lies and the manipulation that some, there's still some good stuff out there, but some has developed to prey on those people that are weaker or don't know, right? So we're, you know, bring people out, educate them, show them how to stand on your feet, and like you too, Allan. I mean, the coaching. I mean, you've had some great things to say about taking people through that process. Like, people just don't arrive, and I think this is a fallacy too. That people think that, well, oh, you're a successful marketer. You've done some really great things in the industry, but people just they're not born there and arrive there. It's a self-development that we've all had to go through the years. And, you know, some of us take longer, some of us, you know, get it a little bit quicker, some of us have better mentors, some of us do it on our own and have to go through all the failures along the way. And, you know, there's never failures, really. If you take those experiences and then go, you know, and analyze that and say, okay, let's do it better next time. The same thing about videos, Val. How many people have we talked to recently that they said, oh, no, I'm not going to do a video, I won't do those? Well, don't ever say that, because you know what? Do a really crappy one. Do one that, and just keep doing it, and until you start feeling comfortable. You know, look what we're doing here. We're just come out, we're bearing our souls on our live hangouts, and you know what? It's really empowering. Not only, you know, people get we learn from each other, and so it's really great to be able to show your personality. And, you know, everybody has skills. They just have to build on them and become interesting. And that's really all it's about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Allan, I've got a question for you. I've got a really good question for you. Based on all your experiences and the spiritual teachings that you've been exposed to, all right, my question is this, and I think everyone needs to evaluate this. This is one of the master keys in life when you understand where we're going to go right now. Based on all your spiritual exposures and teachings, I ask you this question: if somebody is broke, if somebody of poverty consciousness, you know, on the lower sector of life, wins $34 million in a lottery, what's going to happen to that person with that level of consciousness, global worldwide experience, daily physical activity? What's going to happen to that $34 million within 4 years? What happens?
They'll probably figure out every way they can to get rid of it.
Right. They'll screw up, right? So and I believe you, and that's the answer I was looking for. So does it not make sense that all these people out there that are chasing the dream, chasing the hope, chasing the soap, chasing the Pope, chasing everything out there, no, really, chasing everything out there, should they not stop, step back, take a look in the mirror, and say, at what level of consciousness am I at? Because, you know, it's like the law of gravity. If you walk off a 30-story building, I always say this all the time, all the power positive thinking, all the goal-setting bullshit in the world's not going to save you. There's a law of gravity, and that's just the way it is. And so my point, I'll shut up in a sec. My point being is, should people not understand these universal spiritual laws first and understand how it all pans out? That if you're a poor me or a victim or looking for, bringing a welfare mentality into free enterprise, I mean, how can you have prosperity? Because if you lose the $34 million, as you said, they probably would, and they would, does that not mean even if they had $10, Allan, and they put into a business opportunity, taking that same psychological environment and the world they live in, you must be in order to do, in order to have, would they not lose the $10 as well, despite what number we put on it? Is it not a universal spiritual law that you must lose your $10, your $25, your $300, your $500, your $1,000, your $5,000 in this business? Any business?
Well, I mean, we're talking again. We're going back to what we talked about at the beginning. In the way I see it, is that a lot of people, I think, are out there with self-development and personal development as a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the reason it's a multi-billion-dollar industry is a lot of people understand on a deep level that something's missing in themselves, and there were things that were not taught to them that they need to be successful. So you're right, and I sense your compassion because you know what they need to do, but I think you're a little frustrated because many of them are not doing it. I think the issue goes to the fact that a lot of people know that there's something missing, know that there's something wrong, but the methods they're taking to get there are not effective. And that, again, I'm not here to promote my program, but that's why I wanted to, my whole life purpose was to create a fast track inner fitness, communication fitness system. So if you go, if let's say, if I'm 100 pounds overweight, Val, and you're a physical fitness trainer, and I read every book in the universe, and I go to every rah-rah workshop, am I going to get into physical shape? No. You're going to get me in a train. Are you going to send me up the Himalaya Mountains or the Grouse Grind in Vancouver? You're not going to do that because I'm not going to make it. So if they're going to read books and they're looking for the quick fix, and they're going to the next seminar and the next seminar and the next seminar, and they're getting fed with all these ideas, even if the principles are great, even if they're the greatest philosophical system in the entire world, until they get fed up and put things into practice. And most coaches and trainers are not really doing a lot of that. They're doing a lot of counseling, they're doing a lot of rah-rah, they're doing a lot of inspiration, they're doing a lot of preaching, and people are getting, wow, look at that person on stage, wow. And the person on stage is not really humbling themselves and saying, look, don't adulate me. I want you to bring the best of you. And I'm going to put you online. If you're interested, let's get in the gymnasium and let's do it. And until we do that and create enough of a core group and tribe to do that, we're going to continue to go around this spinning wheel that you're talking about, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's just a continuation. I've got this guy. I just got to tell you a quick story. So here I am in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm not going to mention any names. 2003, a gentleman comes into Mentors in Motion, a concept that I was promoting, and he came in. He loved the concept, but I got to tell you something. Here we are. That was 2003. Allan, I kid you not, no exaggeration, no BS here. It's 2016. He lives about maybe 27 minutes away from my house in the other part of town on the east side of town. And to this day, from 2003 to 2016, I said, so-and-so, I said, how are things going for you? Have you progressed? Have you moved forward since I, last had a conversation with you? He says, no, Val, he says, I'm still working on my system. I'm fine-tuning it. I said, man, he's still fine-tuning his system from 2003. You know what I'm saying?
I can relate.
That freaks me out,
man.
No,
I got a better story for you, Val. I've been fine-tuning for 6 decades, for God's sake.
Well, that's okay. I think you've taken action with what you've done. You've been out there.
I've just taken a little action. That's all.
Yeah, a little action. But this poor guy's still wearing the same pants and the same running shoes from 2003.
I've got some new running shoes here.
Well, that's good, man. I'm glad you changed your shoes, but I mean, that's what happens in the world of the internet. Everybody's got to separate themselves from the action.
So, Val, let me ask you a question, and Tracy too. We talked about what's missing out there. We've talked about the frustration that a lot of people are not taking action in the way that they need to take action to be successful. What do you think is the answer? Like, you've been around for years. You're dealing with people every day. What do you think the solution is for these people?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about one solution. I think there should be a mandatory boot camp that people have to take legally by law. I think they just like, the FTC and the higher authoritative powers to be should implement a law that in order to be a distributor of the company, you should have to take Val's course. No, I'm just kidding. Not my course. But anyways, I'm joking when I say that. But I say they
hold it. Val and Al's course.
Yeah, Val and Al, or Al and Val. There you go. But really, I really think that there should be some sort of mandatory component, where people have to do something. It's just so easy to come into this industry. I mean, people talk about scams. People talk about having to run to the Better Business Bureau. People talk about having to write to rip-off reports on the internet. People talk about having to write about scam.com and all that stuff. If people were intelligent, they would never have to do any of that.
But what if the thing that you're asking for doesn't happen? The government is not likely to intercede at this point.
No,
so that's I'm
that's
talking
true.
about a realistic solution now with what we have.
Well, I don't know what the realistic solution is now because everyone's got a training course. There's so many training courses out there. There's so many great training courses out there, and there's a bunch of crap out there on the internet. As long as the predators are allowed, as long as the drug pushers on the internet are allowed to, I call them opportunity doctors, where they basically feed into people's psychological addictions and behavioral patterns, as long as they're feeding the crack, to the people where you can stay in bed and be brain dead and make all this money doing nothing and, create all these mechanisms of strict automation where you don't have to do anything and you don't have to engage. You can literally get rich if you just, utilize my system, my methodology, my protocol. You've got to eliminate that. These people, these people have to be put out of business in some which way, shape, or form. And that's why, again, I don't know if you create I don't know if we hire the Hells Angels or get these biker groups to go out and hunt these guys down.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Yeah, so I'm being sarcastic as I say that, but you know what? Universal spiritual law. You sow a seed, you reap a harvest. I don't think it's going to go down too well for them long term, but I think people just really need to hit rock bottom and then hit greater rock bottom of some kind. And even then, to be honest with you, as I'm sitting here right now, I don't even know if that's enough. Because there is a lot of rock bottom on the internet, but it's just like you just want to play that one more slot machine and that one more slot machine and that one more slot machine, and it just never goes away. And I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that have said, I want to leave MLM. I'm getting out of the home-based business industry for all the negative reasons that they've brought upon themselves. Right, but yet they still come back for more. They still come back
That's an addiction.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about rock bottom, and I don't know about your experiences, you guys, but I know for me, I've had more benefit in my life from the dark nights of my soul, the soul, than just positive thinking. And when I've hit rock bottom, which are 2 or 3 times in my life, one of them was 2 years ago, and I look back and I say, if I hadn't hit rock bottom, and if I hadn't made some decisions based on that, I wouldn't have surrendered, I wouldn't have humbled myself, I'd become a lot more authentic, I'd become a lot more present, I'd become a lot more grateful, loving, caring, and it's come because I've allowed myself to hit rock bottom. I'm not saying you go out there and look for it, but sometimes that experience can be the best experience in your life.
Well, it is, and I think you get to the point of fed up, right?
That's where you get fed up. That's where
you get fed up.
I have a good idea. Val has a good idea. Send every network marketer a Hell's Angel individual to their house.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you got 24 hours to make the right decision, if that, You've got 24 hours to be fed up and do something about it. But honestly, I don't know what the answer is, because the solutions are there, but I believe the subconscious mind, I teach a technology called the captain and the crew. The conscious mind being the captain, the subconscious mind being the crew. The crew loves you more than anything in the world, that it will bring into manifestation every need, want, desire that you could possibly have in your life. And people have to change the programming going into the subconscious mind. And it's just like the show Star Trek from the 60s. Even though the crew didn't agree with the captain, right, Captain Kirk, sometimes they had to follow the captain, the quarterback. In military and government, you don't agree, but you got to follow whatever the captain says. The captain, has seniority, and the captain, whatever the captain says goes. And so at a subconscious level, people are just, and I don't exempt myself from it, are so screwed up. I mean, I'm screwed up in areas of my life, and I was screwed up even greater in areas of my life. And I'm so glad I was able to break through being insecure, vomiting, throwing up, having anxiety attacks, stressing out, being afraid to come to a call and even just say, even on a conference call, hi. That was even too stressful for me at one time, and I'm not exaggerating. That was painful. And I'm glad that I went through all the pain and the humiliation and you call it whatever it is you want, shame and everything that you go through in order to cleanse and get it out, man, and detox. So there's got to be a major detox that has to take place, because life is worth living. Life is really worth living now, when before it didn't feel that good, in the past, because of all kinds of, psychodrama that was playing out in reality, whether it be in relationships with girlfriends or ex-wives or somebody, it all goes down, right? So there, people really, they don't know what they're missing, man. And I guess it's hard to relay that to people, because I didn't know what I was missing too for probably 32 years of my life. And now I just wish I could go back and reclaim the 32 years that I wasted in the muck and the mire, and feeling sorry for myself like a pathetic fool. If
I think back of my wasted years, I would say goodbye to humanity. I can't go there. I can't go there. I just say this is where we're at. The moment is all I need here, right? That's all I need.
Well, you know what? The moment is all you actually really own. And
Exactly.
They say thoughts are things, so make sure you choose the good ones.
Exactly.
Right? So
but just going back, I think another solution. My brain's going now. You're popping popcorn with me now, because you said another solution. I think honestly, and I said this so many times. I said if we couldn't do a government mandated program, and if we couldn't do the Hell's Angels type thing, then the third option would be make it mandatory that everybody going into free enterprise to become an entrepreneur, they have to go work in a call center for 6 months and discover who they are.
I would look forward to see your 10 people coming for next year.
I don't even know if it would be 10.
You're right.
Maybe 10% of 10. So everyone would be running back to the opportunity doctors out there. Oh,
it's good that we have a sense of humor. It's good that we have a sense of humor.
Can you give me a little spillover? Can you give me a great position? Can I sit in the bathroom and get rich? Whatever. But it's all good. It's all good. So anyhow, here's another little thing we can bring up. One of the things I said to you earlier, Allan, because we're hitting our hour. We're hitting the top of the hour, even though this is a blast. I love it.
So much fun.
Anyhow, let's talk about engagement again. And I talked to you a little bit about this. You've done corporate gigs. You've talked in front of audiences. You've talked in front of young people, middle-aged people, probably older people. You've done a lot of that stuff, and you continue to want to do that incredible stuff. So, my question to you is, what's more effective? If you wanted a positive, powerful end result, what would be more effective? For you to physically be in place, whether it be here in a video in a Skype chat or a Hangout chat, or hearing you on a phone, or using some sort of communicative piece where you're there, or if you were to do a corporate gig, Allan, would it be more beneficial for everybody in that corporate situation in a boardroom? Would they learn to be able to execute the end result from you better as if somebody just walked in and said, well, guess what, everybody? Allan's not going to be here today, but I've got an instruction manual from Allan. He left a document here. We're supposed to read that. That's going to increase our bottom line. That's going to take us to the promised land. That's going to help us find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This document that's before every single one of you right now, that powerful piece, that powerful entity is going to be the tool, is going to be the ticket that's going to take our company from average to fortune? Or would it be best to have Allan there as a physical being with his universal spiritual energy conducting business and basically creating a breakthrough in the room that way? Or would a piece of paper like an autoresponder, or, go read my blog, or, go check out my link on the website, would that be more effective to empower the situation and, basically manifest a powerful end result? Allan?
Oh, I think we lost him.
We lost him?
I think you just blew him right off the
I got to get rid of these big words like execution and manifestation. Well, you know what? Yeah, we don't even need Allan for the answer there. I'll tell you why. Because Allan's not here right now. So it's kind of like not having him in the boardroom. So obviously we're not getting the energy. We're not getting the end result that we wanted. So it proves the point. So, screw the autoresponder, screw the documentation, shove the blogs up to what. Let's get real and be present. Let's be present in the now.
Oh my God, that was too perfect.
That was hilarious. What a great ending.
We couldn't have planned that.
He answered the question in spirit. He left a subliminal message here unlike anything I've ever seen before. Take out the speaker. Either that or the Hells Angels got him. I don't know.
Oh, Val.
Yeah, it's been a great hangout. Allan, just know we love you, man. That was absolutely historic what just took place here in the last 3 minutes. It was amazing.
Historic. It was too much fun. Too much fun.
I need a drink. Does anyone got a bottle of scotch right now? I need a drink after that. That was great. Anyhow, Trace, you can basically end the call here. I'm done. I am so done.
I think you actually ended the call, but that's okay. Thanks. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks, Allan, for being on here with us, our special guest, Allan Knight. What a rocking time we had tonight. So much fun. Val, as always, you knocked it out of the park, buddy. So
thanks, Trace.
see y'all next week.
Allan, thank you. Wherever you are, Allan, in the universe. We love you, man.
Bye.
Bye.